Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session on how to establish your market expertise with automated market reports. Now, before we get started, just a reminder to make sure you are reviewing the requirements in your area with your broker, including those related to non-essential business and telemarketing to consumers. The tools programs mentioned in this demonstration are optional and discuss best practices for your consideration. Now, with that said, let's talk about the value proposition for Prospect Square. Prospect Square is built to help agents easily provide interesting and valuable content that their clients and contacts will enjoy. The reports and campaigns available through Prospect Square help affiliated agents stay connected to their contacts, engage their sphere, and grow their business through automated set it and forget it reports and campaigns that provide valuable information and content that our contacts will appreciate and enjoy. The key features of Prospect Square include quarterly area and market reports that provide a view of market trends, establishing affiliated agents as local market expert, property e-flyers, and newsletters. When it comes to the market reports, right, this is a great place to really establish yourself as your neighborhood expert by providing stats that are going to be applicable to even the smallest of farms that you're working. So with that said, today's agenda will be covering the following. Quickly how to edit your profile within Prospect Square, quick overview on the contacts and groups section, and then we're going to take a look at the three different types of reports. The market reports, which are more specific to your particular farms, the area report, which will cover cities and towns on a monthly basis, and then the quarterly reports, which will take a look at the county level after the conclusion of each quarter. We'll also take a look at the analytics, so what we can kind of read from each of these different reports and how they're being opened and received. So with that said, let's hop into Prospect Square. So today we're going to start out at mycbdesk.com, and we're going to be looking for the Prospect Square tile, which is the tile with the envelope with the @ symbol in it. Now, if for whatever reason you can't find the Prospect Square tile, you can move up here to the top of your desk portal where it says Find an App. Go ahead, click on that, and then type in Prospect Square. And immediately you'll see that we have two options here. You can click on either one. It'll take you to the place where you need to go. Additionally, you can also type it up here up top where it will say what would you like to find today. And again, we've got Prospect Square, so then we can search for the app here. So let's go ahead and click on one of those tiles. Now, if you're an agent that is working within multiple metros, you're going to see a window that looks like this that will present to you all the different metros that you have access to. Now, if you're a staff member, you might see this as well. So depending on which account you'd like to use, click on that particular region. Now, if you're working as a staff member, you might see this window as well. If you are working as an office admin, you're going to go ahead and select that option. If you want to go in as a staff member and look at your own account, you're going to use the agent option. For those people who are working a little bit of a wider territory, you're going to see the regional admin section here. And for today's session, that's what I'm going to do. It's a quicker way to find the agents that you're looking for. For those who are using Office Admin, what will happen is you will see a screen that populates asking you which office that you would like to access. You'll click on that office and then hit OK, and it'll take you to the same very exact screen. Now, once you're here, we're going to scroll on over to the left-hand side, select Admin, and select Agent. Now from here, you're going to go ahead and find the agent that you're looking for. The easiest way to do that is just go ahead and then typing in that agent's name. And then you're going to go ahead and select the blue login as button. Now once we've completed this, this is our Prospect Square home screen. And this is really where you can access all the different elements that Prospect Square has to offer. With that said, a lot of times we get so excited we forget about checking the one thing that's pretty paramount to Prospect Square, right? It's how our contact info is going to show up at the bottom of these reports. So that is our profile. And to access that profile, we're going to take our cursor and head on over to the top right of our screen. I'm going to hover over where our headshot is and then select My Profile. Now, once we're here, you're going to start seeing the different elements within a particular profile. First name, last name, we get a preferred full name, and this is kind of our first option to make some changes. So where the preferred full name is, might be where if you are either going to import a team name, or maybe in this case, right, your name is Christina, but you go by Christy, you can type that full name in there. Next up, we have our professional title, right? So this could be realtor, real estate professional, maybe you're a luxury property specialist, you can type that in there. If you are in a state that requires your license number to be in Prospect Square and you're part of a team that's using one account, this is where you can put those additional license numbers. Now, as we scroll further down, we have the preferred email. And this is where you can type in the email that you want individuals who reply to your campaigns, which email destination you want that to go to. So if it's not the Coldwell Banker one, feel free, type that in there. Further down the line, we've got our agent website and preferred agent website. So essentially, wherever you want people to go who just want to click on your website, you can type that in there. You can also see where our validate option is, just so you want to make sure that the link is working. Now, the property search website. A perfect example of this is if you are using the Moxie websites and maybe you want to have folks search for homes and give them a direct link to that search portal. You can go ahead, you can take the domain from your Moxie website, your search tab, if you will, and then you can place that link here. Next up, we have the phone numbers. As you can see, we have the ability to add 3 different phone numbers to your Prospect Square. Let's call it a signature for lack of a better term. And in addition, you have the ability to label that as one of 3 different items, either an office number, a cell number, or another number. Down below, if you're in a state that requires a license number, your license number will appear here. Then we have the headshot option. So if you need to switch out your photo, maybe you're using this again as the team account, but just using one, individual account as opposed to breaking it up via team member. This is where you can upload that group headshot, or if you just need to update your own headshot, this is where you can do that. You can just click on the upload photo option and then find your file. Just note that the maximum file size is 1 meg. As we scroll further down below, we have our signature office. It's probably a good point here to kind of hover over this black circle with a question mark. And one of the great things about Prospect Square is that where we have a lot of these circles, this is where it'll ID what each window might be asking for. For a signature office, this is an example if you're a part of multiple offices that you can go ahead and toggle in between those. Down below, we have our social media links, and then this is where you can type in the URLs for each of the various platforms. These are ranging from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Pinterest, and if you want to share your own blog link, you can do that too. You'll also notice that there are a couple of different social media platforms that feature the blue connect button. And this is where if you want to auto share some of your campaigns, you can go ahead, follow the prompts there, and provide permission access for Prospect Square to post on your behalf on those various platforms. Once you've dropped your links in then you can just follow prompts and go from there. As we scroll further down, we get to our time zone, and then we get to the synced contacts with option. This is where if you hit that drop down, you can select from either Google, Outlook, your own personal Outlook, or you can also use the Office 365 account that comes with you being a Coldwell Banker agent. So if I wanted to do that, I could go ahead, I can select the email carrier that I want to see my contacts with, and then type in that account and then follow the prompts from there. The really neat element too, you'll see when these contacts were last synced. If you're doing it for the first time, typically it waits for, I would say, 15 to 30 minutes, and then it should start syncing. Further down below, you'll see that we have a location where you can check off your designations and certifications. And then we have our last bit element here. So just in the name of thoroughness, for those metros that have the Clients for Life program, this is where you can decide whether you want to automatically opt into all those, which is you as the agent, right? So that this way your campaigns stay active. The same for the newsletter as well. If you select no, it'll mark your campaigns as inactive. Okay, so we've got our profile to where we want it to be. We're happy about it. Let's go ahead and head out. So now that we're here, what we're going to go ahead and do is head to our contact section, which is really the meat and potatoes of Prospect Square as a whole. Now, to get to those contacts, there's a couple of different ways in which you can go. You can select the contacts option down here. You can select the option where it says getting started. Or on the left-hand side, you can go ahead, click contacts here to populate the drop-down, and then select contacts. Now, if you don't see this left side banner for whatever reason, take your cursor to the top left, click on any of those three lines there, or the hamburger, whatever you want to call it, and you'll see that banner there. So let's head over to contacts. Okay, so now we're at our contact screen. If we wanted to input a singular contact, there's a quick way in which you can do that. Take your cursor to the middle of the screen where we've got our blue new button right here and select that. Now from here, this is where you can enter in all the information for your new contact. What we're going to need is a first name, a last name, and an email. Those are the three required items to enter a contact into Prospect Square. So let's go ahead and do that. You'll also see that we have our contact salutation. Now this is how you're going to want that contact to be addressed when you're sending reports out to them. We also get to our campaign groups. And this is important because this is where, right, we talk about the organization within Prospect Square, and especially when it comes to reports, it's pretty important. This is because, right, when we're sending out reports to particular farms, we want to make sure that it's pretty easy for us just to send those out. So staying organized, making sure that your contacts are in the right group is paramount. So in this case, I'll just select the AD's account. And then for the primary email, I can just go ahead and then type in that email here. Once we've got that all done, then we can go ahead and hit save and close, and that new contact will appear. Now, if I need to go back and edit a contact for whatever reason, I can go ahead and just select this pencil tool here with the box. I can also delete a contact, as well. And while we're looking at this, this is also where we can see whether a contact is receiving an area report, market report, or a quarterly report. And then we see this where it says unsubscribed here on the right-hand side. Now we see 3 N's. That means that they have not unsubscribed from any of the reports. So with that said, that's what we want to see. So that's great. In addition, if you ever need to reallocate a contact to a different group, you can do so by clicking on that contact here. You can edit that singular contact and change them to a different group. If you're working, say, like with multiple different contacts as an example, let's just click on these first 2. I can go ahead, select action, and then manage groups. And then you can assign them to the appropriate group. Now you'll see a couple different elements here. You'll see the dash mark within this box. This means that some of your contacts are in that group while some of the others that you've selected are not. And then a blank box will mean that a contact or none of the contacts that you've selected are in that group. Now, if I were to click on this 80s box one more time from the minus button, you'll see I'll get to the check, which means that every contact that I've selected would then be allocated to that 80s group. So if I go ahead and hit apply, then hit refresh, you'll see our second contact now has the 80s group moniker. Additionally, if I click on those same contacts and maybe I want to put them in a new group, maybe it's a farm group, I can do the same thing, go to action, but this time create groups and then type that group name in. So then the next question might be is how do I import a group of contacts, right? Because if I do it one by one, that's going to take me forever. Well, you can import contacts by selecting the import export option here in the middle of your screen. So once I've gone ahead and done that, I'll get this pop up where it says please select an option. In this instance, right, we're going to be importing contacts. So I'm going to go ahead and select the next button. And then you'll see that we have the option to upload our contacts via a couple different format types. So let's hit that drop down just to see what those are. I have our Outlook export file type, the Gmail export file type, the Excel file type, and then last but not least, the CSV file type. And this is typically what CRMs will produce if you're exporting your contacts. So that's what we're going to go ahead and use today. Now, before we go ahead and hit the next option, you'll see that we've got this one note here to us, and it reads, I confirm that the contacts in my import file have agreed to receive communications from me and that this file does not contain any contacts from purchased or harvested lists from any source, including but not limited to the MLS, Cold Realty, or any other online source. This file does not contain contacts who have previously opted out of communications from me. Essentially, these contacts are agreeing to receive communications for you. We're doing this to avoid the law set by the Can-Spam Act. So once we've gone ahead, we've read that, we acknowledge it, right? We make sure that all of our contacts have agreed to receive communications from us. We can go ahead and then check this box off. Once we've done that, the blue next button will populate here. And now we're going to go ahead and find our file. So let's go ahead, select browse, got our 80s list right here. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is match the columns to how we want them organized. And up here, this is going to be the prospect square categories, and then this is what's going to be read from your file. Now, some are going to be a lot more complicated, so they might go down even, past the width of the page. So just make sure that you're categorizing how you want things to be seen. But as we mentioned before, write the 3 required things for a prospect square contact: first name, last name, and email. Okay. Once we've got those all lined up, go ahead, hit the blue next button. Now, once we've done that, up comes the pop-up window of how we want to handle duplicate contacts. By default, it says ignore any duplicates and do not import, which is typically the route we want to go. Otherwise, you can either replace the entire contact record, or you can update existing contact details for mapped fields only. Any fields that have not been unmapped will not be updated. So those are different options. Today, we're going to just keep with the default and ignore any duplicates and do not import. So next up, we have the option to import into a group. Now, by default, it has highlighted do not import into a group, which is not necessarily the recommended route. Again, as we talked about it before, especially when it comes to reports, having a contact base that is organized is key to making sure that when we're sending out, farms to specific individuals or groups, that we're sending those out to the right people, and then we're not bogging ourselves down from a time perspective on trying to find those people either. So then our other options are we can select a group, the ones that we already have, or we can create a new group as well. So in this case, maybe that's a particular farm that you're working. In this case, I'm just stick with select a group that we've already got, and then I'm going to keep rolling with the 80s theme. So I've gone ahead, I've selected my group, I've selected how I want duplicates to be handled. I'm ready to wrap up. So I'm going to go ahead and then finish. So with this particular file, I've tried to upload 8 different contacts, 7 were invalid, and 1 was imported. Now when it comes to trying to figure out why contacts might not have imported, maybe we're missing a first name, an email, maybe it's a duplicate contact. There's a lot of different reasons why a contact might not import. So when we get this pop-up window, we have a couple different options. But I will point out a good order for this, if you will. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select the download contacts not important. This will provide you with a CSV file that will detail the different contacts that weren't imported. And then this way, right, you can start looking at was it a typo? Was it, a missing category? Right? The reason why we do this one first is that if we either select the view contacts not imported or select the OK option, then I'd lose the ability to download the contacts not imported. If I select the OK option, then I lose both the option to view the contacts not imported and download that sheet. So then our second option, right after we've downloaded our form, we can also view the contacts not imported. And in this instance, right, we can see that the reason why those contacts did not import was because they were duplicate contacts. So once we've gone ahead, we've reviewed that reason or the reasons why a contact might not have imported, we can go ahead and then select OK. And you can see, right, we've got Billy Joel up here at the top. Now, with that said, I don't think I mentioned this before, but if you need to remove a contact for whatever reason, you can go ahead, you can hit the delete option here, and that will remove the contact from your contact bank in regards to being active and receiving campaigns. The other option that I'll talk about as well before I head to the sign up link is that if you ever need to find a contact, you can click on this blue find button and you can type that name in. You can also search by a group here as well. You can also search for contacts via different groups by switching on the all groups section here. And let's just say I want to go to the 80s contact group set. I've got all those folks here. The last thing I'll point out before we get to the sign up link here, the last bit of our contact section, is that a quick shortcut, if you want to try and create any reports, is that you can highlight a couple contacts, head to our action, drop down here, and then select the type of report that you want to create. So then the other option before we head out of contacts that I do want to point out is the sign up link. So if I click on the sign up link, it's going to give us a link that individuals can click and follow to receive information from you by entering their information. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to take this link, open up a new tab here, and this is where an individual can type in their name and their email address, and then they're going to be added to your contact bank. We talked about the CAN-SPAM Act before. You can see the highlighted portion down below here where it says, by providing your email address, you agree to receive regular communications from us regarding real estate news, updates, and trends. You can unsubscribe at any time. We respect your privacy and will never share your information with third parties. Additionally, right, it also has the website that we talked about before, and then Christina's social media links as well. Okay. So then after we're done with contacts, we're going to go ahead and move to groups. And right, it's a screen that looks pretty similar to the contact screen. This is where if we want to create a new group, we can go ahead and select new and then type in that group name. Additionally, if we ever need to edit a group for whatever reason, we can go ahead next to that group and then hit the pencil tool. And then we can rename the group if we want to and then hit save and close. Additionally, if you click on detail, you'll also be able to see the different types or all the different contacts within that contact bank by selecting contacts. Okay. So that's groups. So I've covered our profile, contacts, and groups. Now let's head into the different types of reports. So as I mentioned before, we have our 3 different types of reports in quarterly, area, and market. And today I'm going to go ahead and start with the quarterly reports, and then I'll keep going a little bit more focused in as we go through the 2 other types. So with our quarterly reports, again, this is going to be a report that takes a look at an entire county after the completion of every quarter. So now to create our own quarterly report, I'm going to go ahead and click the new button up here at the top. And this is where we can start typing in all the different details for this report. So first up is the report name. And just as a note, this is going to be internal. The client does not see this. This is for your own organizational purposes solely. So in this case, let's just call this the test report. Contacts, this is where you can type in your own contacts. And I'll point this out here at this juncture. I love the opportunity to create your own contact that is either neighbor or a community neighbor. And then you can put whatever you want in the last name category and then put your own email in the primary email. And the reason I love doing this is that if you're going to share a particular report on social media, and I'll talk about that here a little bit, with either Facebook, maybe it's an Instagram reel or story, maybe it's LinkedIn, right? And if somebody clicks on that link, we don't want them to see like a Dear Bob or Dear Jill. We just want it to be generic. So having a contact that's called community neighbor is a great contact to have so that when they see it, right, it's pretty generic. Now, if I want to include multiple contacts on a particular report, I can go ahead and select this browse option. If I want to create a new contact that I haven't entered in yet, I can select the new contact, and just like what we did before in our contact screen, where we'll just enter again all the details about that particular contact. Heading back to the notion of sending this to multiple contacts, I can go ahead, select the browse option, and then I can start searching for my contacts that I want to send this report out to. So in this case, let's just say, again, sticking with the 80s group, I'll go ahead and search that. And then I can check off all the individuals that I want to receive it. If I want that entire group to receive it, I can just check the box off here, and then I'll select all of my contacts. Now, if I have multiple pages of contacts, then I'll just go through each of the contact pages and select those contacts. So Let's just demo that real quick so somebody can see what that would look like. All right, and then I would just click first page, second page, and so forth. Head back to that second page there. Right, and you can see that the number of contacts that you're signing up is growing here. So then we get to our market area. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and then type in the county that I want to feature. Now, with that said, if you want to take a look at which counties are available to you, you can go ahead and select this browse option. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and pick Ventura County. Next up on our agenda items within the quarterly report is the copy agent on report. And the important thing here is that if you're sending a report out to a group of people, you are going to get a copy of every email sent out. So if you have a group of 50 that you're sending this quarterly report out to, if you select yes on the copy agent on report, that means you're going to get that many copies of that email. And that is because that once a campaign goes out to an individual, it's treated as a individual correlation or correspondence, if you will. So that maybe if that contact wants to change something down the line, maybe they move from Ventura County to Los Angeles County, and you want to update that county report for them specifically, you can do that for them without affecting everybody else. So the best way to kind of handle that is just add yourself to the contact list up above. Now the report enabled option, if you select yes, it'll go out and send. If you select no, it'll save it as a draft. As we go a little bit further down the line, you'll see our initial email subject line. This is where you can change that. And then you can change the follow-up email subject lines as well. Last but not least, we have the cover page image of what you want to be on the top of your report. If you want to change it, you can go ahead and select Browse. Well, you'll see a library of images that Coldwell Banker provides to you, and even some images that you can upload on your own as well. And I'll talk about that here a little bit later on in this demonstration. So you can see some of the different options that we have here, just shy of 100. Okay. So now that we've got that all settled, let's go ahead and see what this report looks like. So we've got our quarterly report up. We can see that we have our image here. Scroll a little bit further down below, right? We have the Q1 stats for Ventura County. Again, we have that community neighbor contact. We get to our intro paragraph, and I'll talk about how you can edit this paragraph in a little bit. We also have the ability to convert this to a PDF and then print it out. We have the ability to view this report in a browser. You can share this to social media pretty quickly as well. So if I go ahead and click on this option, I can select Facebook. And then you can change the different profiles that you want to have it included on. But in this case, I already have my business page up, and I can just type in my note. So maybe it's something quick along the lines of, and then of course you can put in your own spin and your own words on it. But things to note, right? It's got a really nice clean image and an easy accessible link. Now you can also view in browser, right? And you can see it as its own page, if you will. And then this is just another way in which, right, you can post this to social media just by copying this URL. Again, you can put it into LinkedIn, put it into Facebook, put it into your stories on Instagram. Right, so there's a lot of different ways in which you can showcase that link on social media. If somebody selects the contact me option, it'll take them to a quick form that they can fill out. And then this email would go to the agent. If you click on the forward to a friend, they'll see who it's coming from, the address that you're going to send it out to, and any notes that you want to give to that particular friend. And again, this might be from the client-facing side, or this would be from the client-facing side. So then as we go further down below, right, we'll see, again, the signature block that we worked on within our profile. And then we see the different stats from Q1 from 23 versus 24. On top of that, we also get to see what those stats look like for each particular city as well. So if somebody's looking for a particular area, they can look at those notes as well. And the neat thing is that it's not only for the quarter, but as you see further down below, it'll be for the month as well, if somebody wants to take a look at that. But in between, right, we'll see all these great stats and charts in regards to the real estate market for Ventura County. And then as we head all the way down to the bottom, all right, we can see how somebody can access the reports for different areas. So once we're done reviewing, we can go ahead, we can exit this. And then if we were ready to send this report out, we could go ahead and hit save and send. And again, if you had report enabled as no, and then it would just save it as a draft. Now, if you needed to edit any particular report from the past, again, let's just use the example, maybe somebody moved from Ventura to LA County and they wanted to switch it up. You can go ahead and select the edit tool option right here with the box and the pencil. If you need to remove a report, you can just delete it by selecting the trash can. If you want to take a look at what a report looks like at a given time, you can just go ahead and select the paper icon here. And then if you ever need to resend a report, maybe somebody accidentally deleted it, you can click on the envelope and then go through the prompts to send to that particular person. Now, if I select this preview and share option up top here, this will provide me with links to both counties, right, and what those reports look like. Now, I will say the really cool thing about this is that these are links that you can import into your newsletters. You can import them into your website, social media even. But the really neat thing about these files is that they update on their own. So if you have this up on your website, you don't have to worry about continually updating it. If you have it within an email template, you don't have to worry about updating it. It does it once it's ready. Okay. So with all that said, let's head out of quarterly reports and into area reports. So now within these area reports, this is where we can start setting up the monthly reports. And as we mentioned before, area reports are going out on a monthly basis. They're typically going out that first, second week of the month, and they look back at the prior month for a particular area. Now, with that said, within the area reports, you can add multiple areas to a particular report, so you're not just limited to one. Now, to create a new area report, I'm going to go ahead, same process as the quarterly report, clicking on that blue new find button. Again, contact's going to be the same instruction set as our quarterly report. And for our market areas, right, this is where you can start typing in the areas that you want to search for. You can also browse for them by selecting the browse option. And you'll see that you have access to the amount of communities that are assigned to your office. Now, with that said, you can also see that you have the ability to send out just the entire area, or if there's certain other denominations, maybe it's single family homes, maybe it's condominiums, you can select those as well. So let's see if we can just find an example of one of those. So we got Agoura Hills as an example, condominiums, single family homes, or we just take it all. Right. So in this case, let's just go ahead. I'll type in 1 as an example. Let's just do Thousand Oaks. We'll take a look at all of it. And then maybe I want to take a look at Ventura. I'll take a look at Ventura as well. Now, just as in the quarterly reports, it's the same exact bottom half with our copy agent on report. Again, just a reminder, if you're sending it out to a multitude of individuals, just include yourself on the contact list. Report enabled, same thing. If you select yes, it's going out. If you hit the drop down and you select no, then it's going to be saved as a draft. We then have our initial email subject lines, follow-up subject lines, and then the cover image again. And then if I want to change that image, I can go ahead. Let's just do it for this one as an example. I can click on the circle next to the image and then hit OK. And then you can see our image has changed. So now let's go ahead and then select preview. And now you can see that we've got the new image that we just picked. We have our time frame. So let's take a look at March of 24. That's our last completed month. The community neighbor contact once again, and then we've got our intro paragraph. And then from here, same options as we had within the quarterly report. And now we have our start stats of March of 24 versus March of 23. And then as we scroll further down below, we can see those different stats and graphs assigned to the different area. Now, as we scroll down, right, you'll notice that we started with Ventura up above, and now we're moving down to Thousand Oaks and the stats for Thousand Oaks. So if you're selecting multiple areas, it's going to do one area first, and then it's going to go to the second. That's the end of our report. Again, if we want to send this out, just go ahead and select Save and Send. And just like within the quarterly reports, we have the different options to edit it, if need be, delete it, preview, and then resend. And then just like within the quarterly reports, we also have the ability to do preview and share, where you can select these reports, take those links, and again, they update on their own. Okay. So we've covered quarterly reports, we've taken a look at area reports. Now let's get to market reports, because this is where we can get incredibly focused in on particular farms, right? And I think one of the things that we always think about is, when we try to do these radius searches that you see in so many places, that might not really capture the full essence of what a neighborhood looks like as far as its real estate market, right? Because our farms are in all these different shapes and sizes. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can create one of these new reports. So I'm going to go ahead and select the blue new button here at the top of the screen, just like we did with our quarterly and area reports. So as you can see, the screen's a little bit different from our quarterly and area report pop-up windows, but there are some similarities, right? We have our report name, and again, this is going to be internal and not seen by the client. You can also name this report name after the client if it's just a one-off, or if it's a farm that you're working on, right, it can be that farm. So now we get to the criteria, right? This is the big aspect within the market reports. So I'm going to go ahead and select edit. And this is where you can pick what your starting point is going to be. Now, one thing to note first is that you want to go ahead and select the MLS that you want to be included within your report, where those stats are pulling from. If you start typing in it and then you switch your MLSs, then it's going to erase everything that you've got. So in this case, let's just go ahead. I'm just going to type in an area. And then what you'll see is you have the ability to go from 0.25 miles to 25 miles. In this case, right, I typed in a town and not an exact address. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and let Prospect Square help me pick that exact coordinate. So I'm okay with this for now. So I'll just go ahead and hit save. And then once again, you can see how big you want that radius circle to be. Additionally, then we can scroll further down below and we could really, par down our results by selecting different elements from a listing perspective, whether that listing's on market, sold closed, how far back do we want to go back to pull our sold closed? You can go as far back as only 7 days. You can go as far back as a couple years. And the 180 number, that's what the default is. But maybe you want to change it just based off of a shift in the market. Then we've got our off-market items, pending. And I will say this, depending on what the MLS is, you might see different options here. Some will feature, for example, with the off-market, expired listings. So there's a couple of different ways to look at that market report. As we go further down below, right, we can also limit our results or narrow them down by list price, property type, different areas, features, etc. So now I can go ahead and hit OK once I've gone ahead and reviewed everything. And now you can see that that criteria is here. Now, let's say I want to do the map search, which is a different way that in which we can really draw out the area that we want to focus on. So what we're going to do in that instance is I'm going to clear it in this example. I'm going to go back and hit the criteria. And instead of doing this search, I could do map search. And again, right, we want to make sure that we're picking the MLS that we want to pull our stats from. So in this case, I'm going to pull from the Santa Barbara MLS. And a couple of things just to help us out with drawing on the map and finding our spot. What we're going to want to do is go ahead and then click this double arrow right here. And so we can see more of our map. And then to make the window a little bit bigger, I'm going to click on the double arrow here in the top right of our screen. Okay. So now if we want to move on our map, I'm just going to click and hold. You can see where the hand is there in the left side of your screen. So I'm just going to click and hold and drag. And this is how you can go north, south, east, west. And I'm going to go up the 101 freeway to the town of Carpinteria. So now once I'm here, maybe I want to zoom in a little bit so I can get the exact streets that I want included in my report. And if I want to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and hit this plus button in the top right of my screen. And I'll just drag over here to the point to where I need to be. Now, if I've gone in too close, that's okay as well. I can just go ahead and hit the zoom out button, which is the minus button below. Okay. Now that I've got the correct spot in which I want to draw and pull my stats from, let's go over the different options that you've got. First up, we have our rectangle search here in the top right. So to utilize that, just click on the rectangle. And then what we're going to do is you'll see we've got our plus sign that's flickering, if you will. I'm going to click and hold and then draw my rectangle. Now, that starting point, that first click that you make, right, you can move your cursor around. So that can be one of your corners, whether that's top left, bottom left, top right, etc. And once you've got that area, right, you can name that area and then go ahead and hit OK. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel. The next option, we have our circle, which is very similar to the radius tool, except you have a little bit more control. Once you've gone ahead and clicked on a point to start, that is going to be the epicenter of where you're pulling stats from. So if I go ahead, I hold and click, then I can drag that circle and that will determine where I'm pulling the stats from. So you can see how I can kind of control how big that area is going to be. Same item, just like the rectangle, you can type in your name for the reports and then go ahead and hit OK. But again, in this instance, I'm going to select cancel so we can get to our last option, which is the most utilized option within the map search, which is our polygon tool. So from here, we're going to go ahead and select the polygon tool, and then we're going to start drawing. Now to draw, you're going to click once, and that's going to be your starting point. Now you're going to keep moving, right? You don't have to hold it too. You're just going to click, let it go. And then you're going to move until you want to change your direction. So once you've gotten to that point, just click again, and then start moving in the direction that you want to go. So go up here along the beach, and then I'll come back in to our starting point. Once I've gotten that, then I can go ahead and name my area. So Carburia Shores. Now by default, it's going to pull stats from 6 months back. So in this case, we have 13 listings, whether they're active, sold, pending, off market. Those are the number of listings that have happened within this area within the past 6 months. Now, if I want to hit the drop down here, this is where I can start narrowing or editing some of my parameters. The one thing I'll point out here is that the option to where we've saved our groups, this is great because if you ever need to go back to an area which you've created, you can always just quickly click on that box and it'll take you there. Additionally, if you want to include multiple areas, you can just click on that second square and then both of those areas will be highlighted. But in this case, I just want to focus on the one. Now from here, right, this is where I can start looking at the listing parameters. So on market, sold closed, off market, and just like what we did with the radius search, we can determine how far back we want to go. And then we have everything else with listing type, price, features, etc. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, if I needed to make any adjustments to the map, actually, let's go back in there just so I can show you what that might look like. Pretty simple too. You can just go ahead and then move one of these points just by highlighting the white circle there and then moving it out. And you can see as soon as you do that, then your stats will update as well. So let's go back to OK. We then get to our contacts, same as with our area and quarterly reports. And then we get to some new elements here. So the email intro, this is where we can take a look at the 4 different types of profiles that we have for our intro paragraph. And we can see those by selecting this drop down here. By default, it starts at buyer, but we can take a look at the buyer, seller, prospect, and investor. If you're not sure which one you want to use, I always feel like the prospect is probably the most ambiguous of the group, and it's probably the easiest one to use. Now, as you scroll further down below, we'll see our report title. This actually does show in the report, so whatever you type in here, the consumer will see. And the report intro, this will showcase below your name within the report after that intro paragraph. But this is where if you want to have a little bit more insight into that report, you can place that there. So I'm just going to type in a quick note. Just so you can see the location of it. The alternative thought process is you can put whatever notes you want to put in here into your intro. We have the hide automated market value. By default, it's selected DS. I'm going to select no, just so you can see what it looks like. Then we have our send frequency. So unlike the quarterly and the area reports, there's not a set date in which the send frequency goes out for a market report. You get to pick that. By default, it's weekly, but you can make it as often as every day. You can save this as a draft. If you want to make it bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly, you can do that too. For today, let's just start with bi-weekly. And then the maximum number of listings per report. I'll go ahead and hit the drop down. You can see how you can include as many as 25 or little as 25 up to 200. And at least that's your cap. Now, as we take a look at the copy agent report, that's the same as before. A report expiration, this is going to take a look at, let's just give it an example. If you know you're working with a client and they need to have their home search wrapped up by the end of the year, let's head my way over to December. I could select that date for the end of the year for 2024. And once we've gotten to 2025, these reports will stop going out to that client automatically. Just like before, we have the email subject lines, both for the initial email and the follow-up email as well. And then we have that market report cover image option too, just like what we have with the quarterly and the area reports. Okay, so we've got everything typed in for our market report. Let's take a look. So if I go ahead and select the preview option here, we have our report, we have our cover image, community neighbor, this is where that report title is. We have our prospect paragraph, and then we talked about the report intro, right? It goes underneath the name. So if you want to put in your own particular note, you can put that there. You can also put it up here as well by editing that intro before. Now, just like the other reports, we can print this, we can share this. Now, an idea for printing this out, maybe this is something that you want to have at your open house when somebody wants to know what that local market looks like and they want a quick read. Having this report there, not a bad thing to have. Now, as I scroll further down, right, we'll see the snapshot, and we got our image from Google here of roughly that area that I drew. And then we see the stats for those listings for the area that I selected and the time frame in which I selected. You can see some stats about that. And then we talked about the automated market value. So this is what that looks like. If you hide it, it'll just have a link where people can see what that value looks like. As we scroll further below, right, we'll see a page that looks very similar to what we saw in the area and quarterly reports, but in this instance, right, we're taking a look at a particular area that we drew. And then we get to the market summary. And this is where I want to head the note that for each MLS, it's going to look a little different. And by that, I mean, some MLSs are going to have different regulations. So in this particular case, the Santa Barbara MLS allows addresses and the MLS ID to be shown. Whereas in, say, like a different MLS, perfect example out here in California, CRMLS, they do not. So this section is going to look different for different individuals depending on your MLS. If you have any concerns about this or questions about that, reach out to your broker of record. Now, with that said, if I click on an address, it will provide me the drop point of that listing. If I click on the MLS ID for a particular listing, if I click on that, then I get this interactive PDF where I can click on the photos and then start taking a look at the listing from a photo perspective. A really nice piece to showcase clients and prospects. With that said, and what's really nice is that when you're sending this report out and an individual clicks on the various links within this market report, you'll see that in your analytics. So this is a great way to see what type of listings your client or prospects are looking at, right? So that helps you tell the story. And maybe just gives you some insight about the different types of properties you should be looking out for in regards to them. We then have our sold listings, and then below we have the local inventory, and this is just going to be a different way in which those listings are presented. Okay, so now once we've got that all settled, right, let's just go ahead, we'll save this as a draft. That's a little bit of a different option too, so we do have the draft option here within the market report section, whereas in the area quarterly we did not. So if you ever want to go back and take a look at that, that's how you can kind of go back in your drafts and continue to work on that. Now, for those reports that have already gone out, if I need to make any edits, again, I can edit the pencil tool, trash can, same thing, report preview, same as before with our quarterly and area reports. And again, the same, if we ever need to resend a report, you can do that too. The difference here with this one, right, is that the market reports are consistently changing as the market changes. So if we're getting new listings, that's going to be included there. If you're ever curious about what properties are in a particular report, you see that we've got our search criteria here, and we can view the properties within that criteria. So that this way we can see which listings are going out to the client or prospect. Now, on the same token, if I ever need to find a report, let's just say I've sent out a whole bunch, I can do that by selecting this find option up here towards the top right. I can do the report name, I can search by contact. And then from an action standpoint, let's just say I really like the criteria that I've marked out. I can always copy one of these reports as well. All right, so we've covered our quarterly reports, area reports, and the market reports. Let's head on over to the report settings just so we can talk about how to set up some defaults for you, if you will. Now, if you haven't set up your settings before, it'll be blank. So with that said, let's just imagine that this default one is not here. Let's go ahead and select the blue new button. And this is where you can start setting your defaults up. If you have not set one up yet, you're just automatically going to select this active report settings and pick yes. But if you already have one and you want to make any edits and maybe just want to have one as a draft, you can select no as well. So report name, let's just type that in. Let's just call this demo. And then we get to that first part, the area report. So this is where we can start changing the images for the default. So I can either browse like we did before and search through the library, or if I want to pick out my own image, I can do that too. So let's go ahead and select the new cover image. And for this particular one, I'm going to call it Westlake Village. You're going to see our specifications has to be under 600 kilobytes. We have a couple of cover image requirements, specs, dimensions. The other important thing to note is this bottom paragraph here where it says, by adding this media content, I confirm that I either own the copyright to this photo, i.e. I took the photo myself, or I have written permission from the copyright owner to use this photo for commercial purposes online as required by terms of use. Again, so we just want to make sure that you have the rights to use that photo in a commercial setting. So in this case, I'm going to find my photo. I'm going to upload that in here. And now I've got my new image. And I can go ahead and hit save and close. So then moving forward, while this is saving, every area report that I would have would then feature this image as that cover page image. The same goes for if you're using the Prospect Square newsletter and you have that area report section, that's the image that's going to show. As we move down the menu, we have the hide area reports. If you don't want any intro paragraphs, you can just hit the drop down there and select yes. Now, once we get to our intros, this is where you can change those initial paragraphs and the follow-up paragraphs, but the default's right all the same. Again, our character count is going to be 1024, and then you can type in what you want, right? Put your own spin on it, if you will. As we scroll below area reports, we have our market reports. Again, same concept. We can add an image. We can browse our images. In this instance, right, we now have the ability to edit each of the 4 different profile types. So 8 altogether as far as particular intros in between our initials and our follow-up intros. And this can go for the buyer, seller, prospect, and investor. And then lastly, you can see our quarterly report as well. Once we're all set, we can go ahead and hit save, save and close. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out. Now, if you have multiple report settings and you want to make one the active, you can just toggle between this green option here. Okay, so that's report settings. Last but not least, I want to cover the analytics section up at the top. And this is where we can see how our reports are being received. Now, by default, it's going to go back to 14 days. And when we talk about reports, it includes the area, market, and quarterly reports, nothing else. So if I want to change the time frame of our analytics, I can go ahead, I can select the drop down and then pick anywhere from 7 days to 6 months out. So let's just go ahead and take a look at 6 months out. Right, so I do 4 reports that have come out. And then we can see the different opens. And in this case, because our agent is sending out quarterly reports, right, makes a lot of sense as to why January's and October are a lot higher than our months of February and April. And then you can go ahead and you can toggle between the different reports just by clicking on them again. You might have to go a little bit further back just to take a look, just because some of these reports, right, are set on a specific time frame. So let's take a look at the market reports. This is a good place to just take a look at some additional stats below these report analytics. And you can see the ones that have been sent in the last 14 days. I'm just going to use that as our demonstration for today. So then the hot contacts, right? This is going to be if a particular individual has looked at any of the listings that you've included within the market report. Now the hot property section, that's going to tell you which listings have been looked at. And then down below, this will tell you which contact was looking at which MLS number and which listing action they took a look at. So the property details in this case. The great thing is you can download all these options as well. And then if you've had any contacts unsubscribed, you'll see that down below here as well, and you can download that list too. Now, the last thing before I leave you today is that I did want to point out the fact that we've got this circle down below here on the right-hand side. Now, before we wrap up our live demonstration, I did want to showcase one last item, which is the circle with the question mark circle here on the bottom right side. Now, this is a great place for active chat. So if you are struggling and if you have any questions while you're working within Prospect Square, you can utilize that, click on that, and have that support team answer your questions. So now, with that said, that wraps up our live demonstration today. Now, at this juncture, I wanted to remind you of our next available appointment service where you can book a 20-minute solution-oriented virtual appointment with one of our 100-plus marketers and meet with them in as little as 2 business hours. You can book these appointments for support on a dozen of core marketing tools at nextavailableappointment.com.